Good evening. Welcome to the regular monthly meeting of the Hamlet City Council. We appreciate everyone who's here tonight. At this time, we'll call the meeting to order, and we'll ask for the invocation, and we're pleased to have with us tonight the Reverend Deb Wilkins from First Methodist Church in Hamlet. Please come up.
Father, we thank you for these, your servants of the city of Hamlet. We pray that they keep before them the best model of servanthood, Jesus Christ, who said, I came to serve, not to be served. This same Jesus sought justice for all, access to good life for all, but there were too many evil forces against him, both religious and secular. But we do not lose heart in the midst of pride, selfishness, and greed. Father, you are the strength of every good heart that seeks to serve your people. These elected city council members from among the people of Hamlet are serving you in their service to all the people. So keep them safe and mindful of their sacred duty, whether they are conscious of it or not. The agenda has been prepared, and as they work through it, help them to remember that wisdom comes from above. Help them to take the time to seek your guidance. Now let us pray together. Our Father, who art
in heaven,
hallowed
be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
Have a good evening, folks.
Thank you, Reverend. Council, at this time, item number 3, adoption of the agenda. I've been in contact with Councilman McQueen, who is unable to be here tonight because of business, and he has asked if we would to table item number 7 tonight until he has opportunity to get back. I need a motion on that.
Make a motion.
Okay, I need the motion to adopt the agenda with the...
One couple of things I'd like to add.
Isn't he on the phone? Wait a minute.
No.
No.
Oh.
He's not going to be able to.
A couple of things I'd like to add is it was brought to my attention that last year we waited up until December and then we thought about it for a Christmas bonus for employees. That's something I'd like to add to the agenda so we don't wait until December to discuss it. And then also there's been some questions, concerns with the tsunami camera. I'd like to add that to discuss it as well.
Okay, we would add those as 8A and 8B.
And Mr. Mayor, I would like to request that council consider discussing the piece of equipment for Public Works, the excavator that is on state contract in Greensboro. If we could add that as a subsequent item.
Let's back up just a second. 8A is going to be discussion of a bonus, is that correct, for employees? Am I correct on that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And 8B then is discussion of the
Tsunami camera.
tsunami camera. All right, then 8C would be the discussion on the
Be the excavator for
excavator.
Public Works.
Okay, and so we would table item number 7. We'll add 8A, 8B, and 8C. Is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I have a second.
About a second.
I have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. All right, thank you. Council, you have before you tonight the minutes from our last regular meeting and also the minutes from the closed session. What are your wishes on that?
Motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve. Need a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise.
Mayor, the one thing that looks like we may not have added on here and may need to add is the closed session minutes from the meeting. We have the approval of minutes, but not the closed session minutes. We could add that maybe as 4A.
No, I've got that. Council approved the vote for the October 9th regular council meeting in the closed session minutes. Item number 4.
Yeah,
They're
they
just not
normally are
listed
listed
separate. We
separate.
usually take them together, and I ask for that.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, we voted on it. Thank you. At this time, we get to the point where we allow comments from the attendees. If there's anyone here tonight who wishes to get up and make any comments or questions or whatever regarding anything other than the what's on the agenda, we would certainly be glad to have you come forward. If not, we'll close the comments. We'll move along to item number 6, which is under old business, which is a discussion of the authorization to approve alcohol use for Rotunda rentals. The city manager's prepared an update for us, and as council, we need to consider it. And I know that we asked either the last meeting or meeting before to get us information regarding what we wanted to do on this. Would you like to bring us up to date, Mr. Blanton?
Sure, Mr. Mayor. About a year or so ago, we adopted a new policy to make our charter and our ordinance in compliance with the usage of alcohol at the Rotunda. At that time, council adopted a policy which required that the request for alcohol from anyone using the Rotunda come to council 45 days prior. That has been the policy for a little over a year now. Last month, there was some discussion amongst city council at the meeting in regards to potentially discussing transitioning that authority to the city manager as opposed to a formal request to the city council. This revised ordinance reflects that. It's just a model in compliance with what was discussed last month. Council is free to amend it, change it, make any type of recommendations or suggestions that you deem to be appropriate.
And this, my understanding is this only relates to malt beverages and unfortified wine. Am I correct?
That's correct, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, council, comments?
Well, I don't have any comments. I think it would probably be in the council's best interest to turn it over to the city manager so that we don't end up in a situation where we allow someone and may not allow the other, and then we catch ourselves in some liability or trouble.
We've already done that.
Yeah.
That's why it would be best for him to do it.
Is there a fallback if the city manager was not here? Is there, a slant mayor, if he's on vacation for a week?
Typically,
Would this fall to the city clerk?
whoever's been delegated to handle the manager's duties could do that. If you wanted to do something slightly different, because it's a little different than day-to-day business, you could set it up differently to have a specified person.
Well, the way it would read, if he's not here, couldn't handle it, who could? That's all I'm.
And that's what I'm saying is it'd be whoever's been designated to handle the business of the manager. So it's typically the city clerk, but it's whoever's been designated. But I don't know if you want to do something different because this is dealing with sale of alcohol.
Well, there is a 10-day requirement that has to be submitted in writing, so 10 days should be more than enough time. It wouldn't be as if someone was coming into City Hall on one day requesting it for the next. This policy does say that it would be 10 days in advance, so that would alleviate any problem if I weren't here or there was no acting city
but
manager.
they're going to want a response back if you were gone. Worst case scenario, you were gone a week.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to have 2 or 3 day notice on. I'm not trying to stir up trouble. I'm just looking at at what would happen and trying to make the best decision. If it's the clerk, if it falls to the clerk, that's fine. You just need to know what would happen in that scenario. Instead of, well, we don't know, he's not here, we can't do it. Or the mayor or whoever, I don't, but it just needs a.
Fall back.
Yeah,
You need
a
a
motion.
It's got to go to the police chief anyway. So,
Make a motion.
Yeah. So I'd just make a motion that the city manager handles it, and a backup during his absence would be the city clerk.
I'll second the motion.
Okay. And also now I need the motion to approve the ordinance with those changes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay, we're good then. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. Okay, thank you. Okay, item number 7 is tabled till next month. All right. Item number 8, ordinance to demolish 405 Sherraw Road. That's on the left down there below Batley Dairy Road. It's been there for some time, burned out, and nothing has been done on it. Madam Clerk, did you want to make comments on that?
Yeah, mine's in.
Hers. Yeah, okay. You just asked me. Sorry. Never mind. I apologize.
I would just say the structure has been sitting there. It is burned. It's open.
Looks bad.
Yes, it does. The owner did come to City Hall, but so he is aware, but he made no effort to clean up the property, remove anything. So it will be a great benefit for the neighborhood, being right there on Highway 177. There's some houses for sale nearby that I'm sure that this is creating a problem for.
And if I understand correctly, we don't have the money at this time to go ahead and demolish it?
That is correct. Once we, if council approves this, we will put it out for bid. Once we get the price, we will come back to council and ask for the money to remove it.
Okay, very good.
Make a motion to demolish 405 Sherraw Road.
Can I have a motion?
I'm sorry.
No.
Go ahead. No.
Okay, I got a motion. Do I have a second?
A second.
Okay, have a second. Now further.
How many? We've got several of these burnt down houses around town. Do you have any idea? Just 3, 4, 6 that are partially burnt.
Roughly, David, I would say 3 others that are partially burned. Yes.
I mean, we had 25,000, and then we took it out of the original budget. I just, it'd be nice to. Those are dangerous.
Exactly.
It'd be nice to try to get as many of those down as possible. So maybe we can find them later.
Yeah, we'll have our midterm meetings coming up pretty soon to discuss, budget meetings.
Well, we know better about our
Right.
budget at that point. So yeah. So maybe you could get us a list for the budget meeting
That'd be good.
We're
We're really trying to clean up our main roads coming into town, like ones on 74, 177, such as that. Okay, I got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. Okay, item 8A, we had a proposal to give the city employees a bonus. We're not giving them a pay raise this year. Mr. Bowie?
Yes, sir. So I wanted to check how we looked money-wise. We haven't done any kind of merit increase pay this year. We've really done nothing pay-wise for employees. And so I checked with Jill just to kind of get some ballpark figures of where we would be at. And we did this, I think, maybe 2 years ago, $250 bonus for full-time employees, $100 bonus for part-time employees. And I think that put us around 24,000. Jill, does that sound about right?
Thanks.
So just to kind of give the employees a little something, being we couldn't do any kind of increase in pay, which eventually we'll have to look at that again, because we can't just put off and put off and put off. But just to show them the appreciation for what they've done this year, my motion is to give each employee full-time $250 and a $100 part-time bonus to the part-time employees, $100.
Okay, got a motion. Need a second?
Can we just? When
Go ahead.
When's the budget meeting?
We'll probably be in January, soon we get through the end of December.
I mean, I don't know what kind of financial shape we're in. I've heard it was better than anticipated, but
We are.
Till we see that, we're also talking about buying a piece of machinery that wasn't in the budget and more houses to.
That's my motion.
I've got a motion. Do we have a second?
Let me ask the city manager a question before we vote. I know Mr. Bowie said he talked with Jill about the financial situation, and apparently he must have got the green light there. I'd like to ask the city manager, are we okay with a $250 and a $100 bonus? Would that, can we handle that?
Thank you, Mr. Martin. As I was telling Mr. Bowie before the meeting, as he indicated, that was in the $25,000 range. The only way to gauge without having the final number is to look at past practice. I believe last year we gave a $100 bonus to all employees, and then the year prior, as Mr. Bowie indicated, we gave a $250 bonus to employees. And both last year and the year before, we did a merit increase for employees, and in a budget of $8.45 million, $25,000 wouldn't be the tipping point for putting us over under. As Mr. Lindsay was saying, the preliminary figures from the audit look like we had a better year than anticipated, and I suspect that this year will be similar to last year. We'll have to wait for the auditor to know for certain, but like I said, in an $8.4 million budget, $25,000, $30,000 in the grand scheme of things does not seem to be an undue hardship, if that answers your question.
All right, well, your motion, Mr. Bowie, is $250 for employees and $100 for
Part-time.
Part-time, yeah, because they're not full-time, and I just think it's only fair.
I'll second your motion.
I've got a couple of comments. The first thing is we need to, in doing this, we need to consider the extra amount of effort that they put forth during the storms. And police department, fire department, streets, they just, they're required to do a certain amount, but I think they went the extra mile on it. My second question is in answer to one of David's questions. If we do purchase the excavator, that will come out of enterprise fund, won't it?
That's correct, Mr.
And this comes out of general fund.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other comments at this time? If not, I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise.
And in regards to this, is there a specific timeline that council is looking to have this given? Next pay period after? It would depend on the...
I know last year we waited until like
About a week before
after the Christmas luncheon or so. I mean, I think it's only, if we're going to do a Christmas bonus, it helps them to have it while doing their Christmas shopping. So, I mean, if we could do it,
We have a pay period on the 20th and 4th, but we can run this
Council
any
on
time
that.
that council sees fit.
Yeah, I was thinking we
This is
actually
the
gave
first
them.
I've heard about it, so I'm just
Yeah.
catching up.
well,
I think
we waited last
actually
year.
gave them
so,
out at the Christmas luncheon, didn't we? Did you not give a check?
I think we did it. Not last year.
It doesn't
That's
matter.
Yeah,
it
so
doesn't
just as
matter.
long as we can get it, 'cause this is what happened. Is last year it didn't dawn on us to
Motion
think
carry
about
or
it.
what?
It did, yes.
It did.
Why would
We're
you
just trying to
Okay.
figure out when to pay it.
When to pay?
Before Christmas? At the dinner, be fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, item 8B is discussion reference the use of the tsunami cameras. And where were we going with that?
So on the tsunami camera, in our weekly report from the city manager, there was some questions about getting footage for the Seaboard Festival. And I called Jonathan to kind of get a little bit more scoop on what was being asked, because when you start talking to police cameras and surveillance, we kind of, if we take that footage and we share it, you're sharing information that provides basically the panorama of our cameras and kind of maybe hiding points that you would have if so. When he and I discussed it, I know when we first got the cameras, we all got access to them, and we still have access to them. But that was the purpose of viewing the cameras, to just basically see how they worked and how they, would serve the police department. So I just personally, I don't think that we need to take footage and have it shared. I don't think we need to make any kind of CDs or anything, and I think we need to change the passwords on the cameras, and no council members, not even the city manager, should have access to them. They're cameras for police surveillance purposes, and that would basically be like me coming in and asking you for your body cam to see something that happened with another individual. So that's just my thoughts on it. I know it's a good idea, but I think if we're going to record the Seaboard Festival or anything like that, we need to have our own camera system. I mean, we take the liability of, we're taking footage of people in the Seaboard Festival or that were there, they may not want to be on camera. And, we take footage and we air it and share it, and I just feel like you're kind of.
The only thing I requested it for was to do a quick time lapse from setup to breakdown, and it would probably last for 30 seconds, the whole.
Yeah, I just think
My
that may be
question,
something
Mr.
you want to do.
Do the tsunami cameras fall under the same law applying to body cameras and in-car camera systems?
I'd have to take a look at that. I know the body camera footage is pretty specific.
It is.
So
It also covers the in-car camera system.
Yeah,
exactly. But I think the statute's pretty specific. I mean, the general law is that if you're in a public right-of-way, you don't have an expectation of privacy. But again, you've got that specific statute. So I don't know how essentially pole-mounted cameras that the police are using fit into that. I'd be happy to report back to the city council next meeting.
Let's make sure
Yeah.
that we're not.
Well, I think there is a
I don't care.
I think there is a state statute that that does not allow dissemination of
That's
any
what I was asking
footage,
about. He's
any
gonna
kind of
check
footage
on it.
that's police related, put up there for surveillance cameras. It's not open to the public.
I just think we
There should
need
be
to
a state
have
statute.
the passwords. The
Look it
passwords
up.
just need to be changed. I mean, none of us need access to it. It was the whole purpose of getting access was to see how the cameras were going to work for you guys and make that purchase of $20,000 for them. And I think we looked at them, we evaluated them, we liked them, we purchased them, and now they should be for you guys to do your job.
Well, there's any question about that. I think there's
I
a state
agree.
statute that requires or
I mean,
prohibits.
I would rather not. Besides that, you get how many gigs a month? 5 gigs a month. So if anybody's tapping in on that, we're taking away from you guys doing your job, and then we end up paying. We have to pay. You can still go over just like phone. You can go over, but you're going to pay.
That's correct.
Yeah. I'm fine with losing. It doesn't matter to me. If I want to see something, I'll just be there.
Well, what I saw of the download, the quick shots, it's unusable.
We just want to make sure we're not
It's better when
violating
you
the-
download it, right? The
Oh,
quality.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we just want to make sure we're not violating the state law.
Yeah.
That's fine. I just,
That's
in
fine.
the past, we had vendors who questioned that we had 30,000 people on the streets and
I know.
5,000.
Where's the Seaboard Festival Committee on this? I mean, did they?
This was a request from me that couldn't come
Okay,
from them.
okay.
We had tried to do it before, and we didn't have a shot from the depot.
Yeah, I
And
got you.
the camera was there, and it's not a big deal. I dropped my request.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't want.
that's
I
not
just
the
don't
point.
want
Point is,
any
we just want to make sure we
liability.
stay within the law in the city.
You know,
That's all.
again, all I was
Nobody
trying to
cares
do was make
otherwise.
a
Yeah.
30-second quick clip of
Yeah.
from the street empty in the morning
Yeah.
to
the
till
prime time festival.
So
Got you.
that's
Okay, there's
Not
not
a
any kind
problem.
of, not any kind of vote needs to be done on this,
No.
but we all agree
I
that
would
you
like to
need
find
to
out about that. though.
restrict, who,
And I still think we need to change the password. I mean, that's
Sure.
my opinion.
Yeah.
Council will
well,
agree
they're
on that.
useless for the pictures I saw
Yeah.
that came, and I didn't, you can't hardly tell who's who.
And you guys, I know you kind of had some thoughts and issues with that to begin with, so it would solve the issues and problems of people having access to it, using the data and all that too.
yes, sir. Thank you. We're very pleased with the system. The
Yeah, it's
system's great.
awesome. I mean, it works
Yeah.
good. I've seen it blown up on
Well, what's the
actual.
motion? Didn't we have a motion?
There's not a motion on it. It was just,
Well, didn't Jonathan say
But
that
he's
we
gonna.
shouldn't allow the council members to have their access to, and we should,
I think we just
Have
well,
it
if you're
taken
gonna do
off.
that, then we're
Yeah.
gonna have to write another
Well,
policy
Yeah, he's
or
not,
amend the policy.
he's not wanting it. He's gonna check
Yeah.
on the statute, and then the password is gonna be changed, so we don't have access.
probably ought
Okay,
to
all
be
right,
changed
all right.
randomly anyway.
Yeah.
You know,
All right.
if
Well,
you lose an officer
you're
and they
right.
have
Yeah.
access,
Yeah,
You're
you're
right.
right.
you ought to change the password.
About every
Well,
30 days.
What does we don't have a policy on that right now or in the policy. Let's add that to the policy and then we'll bring it up for vote. Whatever our camera policy is, it's written for the.
Wouldn't hurt to have one.
All
All of
no, no, main thing is about who has access and, yeah.
I'll get with Jonathan, and we can provide a revised.
Get an update on, yeah, that'll work. That's all we needed to do on it, we know. Okay, next item is item 8C, the small excavator that they need for sewer right-of-ways that they can't get the big tractors in there. And we'll let, first off, Mr. Stubbs comment. Did everyone see the picture of that? Did you? Let's put one.
Pulled up
It's a track hoe type
excavator.
excavator, and it's got small, it can get down the right-of-ways where Billy needs to get.
What we're actually using right now is it's a Bobcat. It's about 25 years old. We've got probably about half a mile of water line in East Rockingham that we need to actually put in behind houses. The equipment that we got right now is too big. We can't get back there to put the water line in. This piece of equipment, we'll be able to get behind the houses, be able to put the water lines in, renew services, get a lot of these houses that's got very low water pressure, get it built up. Also, with sewer main breaks, water lines that we installed, we just paid $13,000 for a contractor to come in and do it. A few times a year on that, and you could actually have purchased this machine.
Let me say this for anybody who doesn't know. When they built those houses over in East Rockingham, and they build one on one street and one on the other, and they're back to back, so instead of putting water lines down the front of the houses, they'd put one central water line right down the middle behind the houses. And water meters are in there and behind the houses, and they're really hard to get into because of fences and what have you. But yeah.
We've actually had we've had a main line going through the creek area that's actually busted 3 times in the last 6 months.
Yep.
And we've had a hard time getting in there to it with a backhoe. What's going to happen is we're going to try to get in there during the rainy season, and we're going to end up losing a piece of equipment. So
We had one last winter on Church Street over there that the water line actually ran under the back corner of a house, and we had to dig out underneath the house to be able to get to our water line.
that's correct.
Billy, is this a 360 spin on this?
Yes.
So whereas the Bobcat, you're back there tearing people's properties up, doing all the turning and twisting.
Right, it's a rubber tire, and you make a quarter of a turn every time you pull up, and then you got to turn it back the other way. You do more damage with that piece of equipment. Like I said, the equipment's over 25 years old.
Yeah.
It's outlived the life of its use, and we need something to replace it.
What's the price tag on that?
41.4, I think it is.
And it's on state contract,
State
right?
contract.
What's the normal price on that?
About 52.
Well, you need a motion?
Yes, please.
We honestly should have bought this a
I'll
long
make
time
it-
ago.
Several years ago.
I make a motion that we purchase this equipment for the Public Works Department. I'm sure Mr. Blanton has studied it and talked with Billy about it, and I'm sure you would be in full agreement that this equipment is needed.
I am, Mr. Martin.
Therefore, I make the motion that the city purchase this piece of equipment.
I got a motion.
I'll second it.
I got a second. Is there further comments? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stubbs. I have a mayoral proclamation tonight for the National Hospice Palliative Care Month, and we're pleased to have with us tonight Ms. Julie Woody, who is with Richmond County Hospice. Whereas as Medicare's first proven coordinated care model, hospice is a program that works offering person-centered, compassionate care, ensuring people dignity, choice, and quality of life. Whereas the hospice model involves an interdisciplinary, team-oriented approach to treatment, including expert medical care, quality symptom control, and comprehensive pain management as a foundation of care. Whereas beyond providing physical treatment, hospice attends to the patient's emotional, spiritual, and family needs and provides family services like respite care and bereavement counseling. Whereas in an increasingly fragmented and broken healthcare system, hospice is one of the few sectors that demonstrates how healthcare can and should work at its best for its patient. Whereas a growing body of peer-reviewed research indicates that timely access to hospice and palliative care can decrease hospitalizations and emergency room visits and increase quality of life for patients and family caregivers. Whereas every year more than 1.5 million Americans living with life-limiting illness and their families receive care from the nation's hospice programs in communities throughout the United States. Whereas hospice and palliative care organizations are advocates and educators about advanced care planning that help individuals make decisions about the care that they want. Whereas the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services have pledged to put patients first in all of its programs, including hospice, ensuring a coordinated and patient-led approach to care, protecting patient choice and access to individualized services based on a patient's unique care needs and wishes. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Mayor Bill Bayless, by virtue of the authority vested in me, the City of Hamlet, do hereby proclaim November 2018 as National Hospice and Palliative Care Month and encourage citizens to increase their understanding and awareness of care at the end of life and to observe this month as appropriate activities and programs. In witness thereof, I hereunto set my hand this 13th day of November 2018 and cause the seal to be effect. The next item of business is item 10, approval of tax releases. Council, what are your wishes on those?
Move to approve.
Got a motion to approve? Did I get a second? Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. All right. Next item of business is the city manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let's get started with basketball registrations. Those are currently underway and will go from November 5th through December 7th. During regular registration, that will be $35 per child, and then during late registration, which runs December 10th through the 14th, that will be $45 per child. We have sign-up sheets here at City Hall and welcome anyone who's interested to come by and sign their child up for basketball. Next, in regards to the Thanksgiving holiday, residential garbage pickup will be a day early. So for those who receive their garbage picked up on Thursday, it will be picked up on Wednesday this year in 2 weeks. Next, the Hamlet Christmas Parade is December 6th at 3:30 p.m. City Hall will close at 3 for the parade. On December 7th, City Hall will also be closed from 11:45 to 2 p.m. for the employee Christmas luncheon. On November 26th, we have the Christmas tree lighting at Main Street Park. That will be at 5:30 p.m. We are hoping for a great turnout and hoping to have everyone come out to kick off the Christmas holiday by lighting our tree at Main Street Park. Christmas on Main Street will be December 8th, and Old-Fashioned Christmas will be December 14th. Certainly a lot of exciting things going on in regards to the Christmas holiday, and we invite everyone to come out and enjoy that time together with us here at the City of Hamlet. And that is all I have for this evening, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Hamlet Avenue's the 8th or the 14th?
Main Street is on the 8th.
Main Street's on the 8th.
Correct.
And the 14th is
What brought the change? You're usually back.
the scheduling with some of the people. That just was a failure to communicate. And that was the best way to work it out.
Gonna get colder.
It is. But, yeah. Okay. Any questions for the manager, anyone? All right, comments, council, Mr. Lindsay.
I voted against a couple things, mainly just because I felt like we ought to carry some of that into the mid-year financial meeting. But happy Thanksgiving to everybody coming up. I have one question for the city manager about the lot at South Hamlet next to the basketball courts. It's not owned by the city, is that correct?
That's correct.
We put a fence up along the street.
Right. And with the piece of property that the city does not own, that's tied up with an individual that passed away. There are many heirs. It's very complicated. Descendants estate issue. But when we put the fence up, we put a gate intentionally in front of that piece of property. So if there was an issue in the future, the people who own that property would have access to that property without the fence being completely disturbed. The fence is in the city's right-of-way where we put through there, but there was a gate put in just in case there was an issue later on with that particular small piece of property that's sandwiched in between the basketball court and then another parcel of land that the city owns directly to the right.
There's no air.
Well, there's numerous
There's a
heirs.
bunch of 'em.
There's numerous heirs, and it's my understanding that the estate has not been probated. So
Is there any way for us to get this piece of property?
not
because it's kind of missing. We're missing a piece that we really
right.
could use.
Right. And city attorney can speak to that a little more than I can, but I know that in order to acquire that property, we would need to garner consent of all those who have an interest in the property. Is that correct?
I mean, to purchase it, you have to, that's right, have the owner, which in this case is an estate with lots of heirs, and it can be done, but it's complicated and time-consuming, and there's no guarantee. And of course, there's the C word.
Somebody's paying the taxes on it.
And that could be whoever is administering the estate. Sometimes it's as simple as like one of the nieces or nephews pays it just so they don't have problems later. I mean, it's without looking.
It would
it's
be
just
nice to
impossible
get
say.
a hold of this if there's a way that we can.
And some years ago, the city council looked into acquiring that property. They authorized the city manager at that time to negotiate a price for that property. The property owner was alive at that time, and they were not interested in selling the piece of property to the city at that time. Since then, the property owner's passed away, and it's tied up with numerous heirs.
Well, I guess if they're not complaining. Okay.
That is, okay. Mr. Martin?
Well, nothing other than we won't meet again until over in December, which means Thanksgiving is coming up. I would just like to wish everyone here and all the citizens of Hamlet a very happy New Year, Thanksgiving, and hope they enjoy it with their family and friends. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got a couple of things. At one time, I thought we had a process. If a group was asking for money, they submitted a form
Mm-hmm.
at the beginning of the year, and it was addressed at budget time.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that still?
For the most part, that's the process that's followed. If there's a group that's requesting funding, that they come during budget preparations.
Okay.
And I'm sure you're going in regards to Place of Grace, the
No, I'm actually
Shelter.
talking about the last 2 months where we,
Right.
during public comments, gave out funds as opposed to, I just didn't know if we still had this process, if this was the way.
Are you talking in regards to civic donations or in regards to budget amendments for individual line items?
Well, I'm asking about all of it.
Well, in regards to the budget process, of course, at our budget retreat, the wants and desires of departments come to me, and then they funnel through to the city council, and they're approved. Occasionally, as you know, throughout the year, we make budget amendments if there's an immediate need that comes up, or if there's something that can't be foreseen at the time of budgeting, that budget amendments were made for.
But the civic groups that are asking for money, that's
Mhm.
supposed to be done on the form
Yes.
Correct.
instead of here in public.
They're supposed to ask us for it
Okay.
before the, when we're
That's-
doing the budget.
I'm just
Correct.
trying
Mm-hmm.
to
And
get
I-
it during public comments,
Sure.
and which is kind of an awkward, you don't have
Right.
any information, you're just going.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
I don't have the
Fly.
authority to
I know
approve that.
you don't. I just wanted to know if this was the process that was supposed to be, so that we could maybe look towards following the process instead of just winging it.
I don't know what she taught me. It's like the banner. The banner was a good thing.
Yep.
But the banner should have said, welcome to Hamlet, or Hamlet welcomes you, and not to the Seaboard Festival. And we could have used the banner at July 4th and
No.
the parade,
I disagree.
you know, but,
We can buy our own banner and do it for
well,
them.
we bought them that banner.
Yeah, we did. That's a civic
Probably
activity.
wouldn't have
Well,
an
and
issue
that
with
was
it if you were
another
still on the
question.
board.
And that,
I mean,
yeah.
for 30 years, the festival's
And
given
she
to
wouldn't
the
have either,
city,
but-
now the city's. So I just wanted some clarification on it.
I
Was there a
voted for it,
process?
John.
Oh,
I think you should always be able to
Next day,
deviate
we
from
can
any
put that.
policy or any rules.
And one other question,
Just stop.
do you have any idea how many grants we've applied for this year?
Mm-hmm. In this fiscal year or in the last year alone?
I'll go with the fiscal year.
Sure, I can get that number for you. I've certainly explored numerous grants. Usually when a grant becomes available, or if there's a grant that looks promising, I reach out to that organization to gauge the interest, to see the feasibility or likelihood of us getting a grant. I did that a couple of months ago in regards to potential funding that was available for the city pier, and after down at the senior center. And after I discussed that particular grant with the organization that was awarding the grant, I was discouraged from that person, by that person, for applying, mainly because grants are few and far between these days for municipalities. As soon as they see that it's a local government or a municipality on the application, it's not really given precedence opposed to a 501c3 organization. But I do regularly check, and I've made contact with several people to gauge whether or not the city would be a strong contender for a grant application. And I have been fortunate enough to get frank and candid answers from the majority of the people that I've spoken to in regarding grant applications.
Okay, because I've been following with the League of Municipalities and see where they're just giving out grants and giving out grants, and
Right.
didn't know if we were utilizing that when I'm seeing all these other communities.
Sure. And
giving
there
us
are
grants on a regular
Right.
basis.
Right, and there is very strict criteria and numerous criteria options that they look at. One is fund balance and how much money that we have in our savings. That's one of the main things that are asked for when a municipality is applying for grants. And we've been very fortunate to have a strong fund balance in both the enterprise and the general fund. So as fortunate as we are to have that, it plays to our disadvantage when we're applying for grants, because they look at how sound the municipality is. That's one of the factors they look at, median household income, any number of different factors.
I've been studying all the grants.
Sure. And just one more thing in regards to your civic questions. I receive numerous requests routinely from various organizations, various people asking, can the city sponsor something? Can we give money for their organization? And my general go-to answer is, if you would like to be funded for anything, it needs to go through the budget process in the spring. I do not have the authority to grant you any type of additional sponsorship. It would have to, if this were to deviate, it would have to come to the city council. And I actually, a few months ago, received a request from Place of Grace, and I believe I initially told council that I would like to fund that, but that would have been deviating from precedent, and we did not fund that in line of not funding request without having prior city council approval or being put in the budget. But that's a question that I get a lot: is can the city come up with any money to sponsor numerous events, numerous civic groups? So that's usually my go-to answer. Any deviation from that would have to come from city council.
Well, that's why I feel like if we have that process, then we should adhere to the process.
You got anything?
That's it.
Okay, I do want to make one comment, and this is not to switch anybody's legs, but when I ask if you have any questions for the manager under manager's comments, I expect you to ask those questions then, not wait till comments.
I thought that's what this part was for.
No, you got the manager's report, and at that time, if I ask if you've got any questions for the manager, you should ask them then. Under comments, that falls under comments. Okay, we need to be sure that we recognize this month as the veterans, recognize the veterans for this month, and keep them in our prayers and our thoughts as we go through the month. Wish everybody a great Thanksgiving coming up. The Seaboard Festival, again, was a great show. It went on well. We didn't have any problems that I'm aware of, maybe some minor stuff. But everybody did a good job with it. Everybody had a good time, and the weather turned out quite well. The last thing I have is that we need to congratulate the manager on his recent marriage. Again, we look forward to seeing everybody that can come down to the street for both of our nights. We will have the carriage rides again for both of those nights, and that's going to work quite well. If no one has anything else, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Before we do that, I'm going to come back to comments of council and do my comments.
Oh, that's all right. Excuse me.
It's okay.
I always leave you out.
It's all right. Thank you
here.
so much for coming on behalf of hospice. That is just, can't say enough about hospice and everything. I've got to witness hospice a couple of times, and while it's a sad time, it's also a time where I sit there and think, man, if I ever get to the point, that's where I want to be, because they do so much. It meant a lot to my wife when her grandfather was being taken care of, through hospice. My stepdad, when he was dying from cancer, taken care of by hospice. So no matter what form, shape, or whatever's happening with hospice involved, you can guarantee you're getting the best care, the best people, and they treat you as if you've been part of their family forever. So thanks so much for that. Concerning the Seaboard Festival, it went off without a hitch. I mean, that by far was no stress. Everything, considering, which I didn't get to take part in any of the meetings during the year, but did come that morning here, 4:45 that morning until about 6 that evening. It just, everyone was involved and helped, and it really went off great. Chuck Cobb, Diane Mabe did an excellent job of pulling that off with it kind of, I don't think either one of them's ever been involved in it, so they really did a fantastic job. Look forward to the Christmas parade. I know there's a lot of work that goes in that as well, from City Hall staff, Stephanie down at the depot, and does a lot of stuff to try to get everybody to the parade. And I mean, even this year, I think I've made a couple of phone calls and stuff and dropped in whenever I was at a place trying to get somebody to be a part of the parade. So look forward to that. And Thanksgiving, everybody's commented we will not have a meeting until after Thanksgiving, so I do wish everyone a happy and safe Thanksgiving. Hope you enjoy it. Eat as much as you want. First of the year we make those promises that we're going to lose weight and feel great, and actually we just eat more. So just have fun. Don't worry about it. I mean, if you're going to go out happy. So that's what I'm going to do. At any rate, thank you, Mayor. That's all I have tonight.
My apologies to you.
No, you're good. You're good. We were on a roll. Let's go with it.
Yeah, we're on a roll here. Okay, at this time I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
A motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise.